Welcome back to another edition of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Before the Snap series. A lot of programming we have going on here. Just had an awesome program this week with Hall of Famer Bruce Matthews, so I apologize for that. But that's not why we're here today. Today we're here to host our Before the Snap series, which you may be asking, well, what is Before the Snap? If this is your first time tuning in, first off, we thank you so much for watching. Second of all, you're going to learn what it takes to have a career in and around the NFL. And we've been doing this for a long time now. We've had over 100 different episodes, and I'm really excited for today because we haven't had anybody like this on before. So I'm super excited to hear how our special guest today's career really impacts the game of football in a way that you might think that, doesn't really have an impact on the game as well. But you as a fan, you're going to be able to tell for sure. If you've tuned in with us before, obviously, thank you so much for being here. We're super excited to have you back watching the program. As always, my name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth Education and Leadership Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, where it's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values, we promote those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, honesty, all of which made our 382 Hall of Famers the best football players and minds of all time. But it can make you a great student. It makes me a great employee of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it makes our special guest a great employee as well. So these values have a huge impact, not only on the football field, but off the football field as well. Before we get started, just like always, have some thank yous we like to say. Just want to thank all the teachers, administrators, professors that shared this program with their students, or maybe you're watching us in their classroom or watching us 6 months down the road, or told one of their students to check in this video. We appreciate you for allowing us to be a small part of your students' learning experience. And then secondly, we have to thank the students. Without you guys here, this is just another program hosting with a bunch of people who work in and around the game of football talking about what they do. This opportunity here is for you to start your networking journey and ask questions to somebody in the field you might want to work in. We're super excited because this opportunity is we don't know if there's a lot out there like it. Being able to actually interact with somebody live who works in and around the game that you might love so dearly. So take advantage of this opportunity. And if you don't have a question, that's okay. Let us know in the live chat what your name is, what school you go to. We want to see all the great colleges and universities we can have tuning in for the program today. So my last and my biggest thank you is to our special guest today, who we're lucky and grateful to be joined by Mr. Chris Black. Chris manages the control room for all major events at Kraft Sports Entertainment, which when we get to him, when you get to see him, he's in his office, and you're going to be able to tell that right away. This includes all New England Patriots and New England Revolution games, as well as high-profile events like Tom Brady's Hall of Fame induction. He ensures all AV systems, graphics, replay, and video switches are prepared and functioning seamlessly. He's also responsible for hiring freelancers and switching video and graphical signals to the Jumbotron on game days. Recognized as Employee of the Month last year, he thrives in the fast-paced sports broadcasting environment, enjoying the daily challenges and teamwork involved. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our special guest today on Before the Snap, Mr. Chris Black. Chris, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, Jacob. I'm happy to be here.
We are super excited to have you here today to learn all about the production world. As you see there in that quick camera shot, you're in your office. You got computers blinking behind you, stuff put up on the screens, and we're super excited to learn all about your career. But we always like to start off with a 10,000-foot view. We went through your bio a little bit and talked about some of the things you do, but can you give us that 10,000-foot mountaintop view of what you handle on a day-to-day basis there in New England?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for asking. So my job is kind of split into two functions. One part of it is taking care of the control room that I'm in, and there's another one on the other side of the wall behind me, making sure the systems work well, making sure that people are trained, that there's workflows in place, that it runs smoothly, so that on a day of a game or an event, there's no hiccups, there's no cataclysmic event that means you have to take down the Jumbotron or whatever. And the other half of my job is more administrative. So it's making sure that the people that I've staffed people that are going to be working these machines, that they know what they're doing, that we have enough people for whatever event might happen. If an event comes to me, then I'm saying like, all right, well, this is what we need to do to make your event work. This is the people we're going to need. This is what the cost looks like. Sort of those two, 10,000 foot view, it's those two primary things.
That's awesome. And can you kind of dive in on I want to talk about the day to day a little bit. Well, I like to focus on, the hiring part of it because that's something our students, are going to be inserting themselves in, obviously on the other side of the table, not the side of the table you'll be on. But we talk about, the day to day and, what you have to do to prepare. We roll into Gillette Stadium on a Sunday to watch a game, and we're going to be immersed in this game day atmosphere. What goes into that? Is it repetitive? Are you using a lot of the same stuff? But what goes into the whole planning process to make sure that room you're sitting in is functioning the best it can be on a game day?
Yeah. So on a day-to-day basis, it's making sure that, well, I guess I should take a step back and say that this room that I'm in and the adjoining control room on the other side were built about 2 years ago. So they're still very, very new, multi-million-dollar project. They were built by, higher ups in IT and in game entertainment who know the system. Though that said, they're not like intimately involved with every single position. And so while they built this incredible, amazing control room, they didn't build all the small workflows and procedures in place that make all the machines talk to each other well and make all the staff work seamlessly. And so that's a lot of my job. We have 5 replay operators. How are their signals coming into our video switcher? Are they coming in? Do they look good? That's part of what I do on a day-to-day is making sure that those machines are working well. You mentioned hiring, because I mentioned it. It's reaching out to people. A lot of people, I already have a big list of people I pull from, but very frequently people get sick, people need to fill in. I'm reaching out to people that I know. Do you know anyone that can do this position? I've posted on Facebook groups a few times, LinkedIn groups. I need somebody for this position who's local, who can do it. Here's my criteria. Here's my, what I have to do. And then it's a lot of just small problem solving. A lot of it can be repetitive on that side of things. It's things like making sure that our security badges, we have enough security badges for all of our freelancers to tap into the place they need to go throughout the building. Making sure that they have their parking pass, making sure that they know that they're scheduled for a game. If something comes up, getting their availability ahead of time so that I know that they're free. I can put them on a soft hold and say, hey, this event's probably going to happen. Probably shouldn't book anything else during that time. And it's kind of repetitive. I'm looking into different softwares like Asana or Monday, things to help me project manage a little bit more. But that's the most repetitive it gets. And then leading up to a game day, on Saturday, we're hosting Monster Jam here. So today and tomorrow, I'm spending a lot of time loading all those graphics into those machines, making sure that they play right. It's easy to send a video in the wrong format. Making sure that those play right, that they work well, the timing is good, so that when you, a fan, are sitting in the bowl on the day of a game, it looks like everything is planned, like nothing is going wrong. So somebody on the team commented on the Patriots commented to us and say, props to the guy doing the jumbotron. I'm like, it's way more than one guy, but the fact that you think it's one guy means that we're doing our job smoothly. We're doing seamlessly. Everyone that's here is professional that can take care of their machine and troubleshoot, and we all work together to create this awesome product that you see when you sit in your seat and you look at the jumbotron. Oh, there's a replay. Cool. Like, oh, there's a live camera of me. Like, that's awesome. It's all the preparations that go into that. And if anything goes wrong, and you notice it going wrong, that's when all of our work kind of comes together. Like all our brains, like we got to fix this thing right now. So it's fun. It's a lot of problem solving, and it's a lot of managing of people, and it's always something different. And that's why I love the job.
I want to talk about the idea of managing people, because people who might be tuning into this, might be just trying to get into the field, and they may be at that lower level entry position, but one day they may be in a position you in when you have to manage people. So what would be one skill you think is important to have for somebody who's overseeing a staff like that in a high intense atmosphere where if something goes wrong, everybody's got to come together to fix it, and there's no scrambling or stress? What are some of those key pieces for you that help you manage people effectively and efficiently?
Yeah, good question. I'd say the biggest thing with all the freelancers that I hire is their work ethic. What's great about hiring freelancers is that I do not have to bring them back again by any means. There's no obligation if you work one game for you to bring you back to the next game. And that goes the same for anybody who's hiring people in the way that I hire people. And so what that means is everybody that comes in has a good attitude, wants to come back, wants to work more, enjoys what they do. Nothing is making them be there. They're not under any contract. They can decide to leave anytime they want. And they enjoy what they do. They're good at it. They do it for other people. I think about our graphics people that also work for me, but also the Celtics and the Red Sox and the Bruins and Boston College. And they hone their craft and they work hard to get something that looks good. And at the same time, there are people that are coming in as more entry level, that you said, that are just eager to learn and want to, try new things and see what it's like and see if this is something that's right for them. And that's awesome too. There's positions for them too, to kind of support other people, be a backup in case someone can't make it, or just kind of learn on a day-to-day. So I'd say work ethic is the biggest thing. As far as the students or the people that are listening to this going forward wanting to get into this industry, I'd say the next biggest thing is networking, like you mentioned. And networking can look like anything. Networking is not necessarily having a business card, having an elevator pitch, having your 20-year plan in mind, and approaching everyone you see with that plan, with that business card. It can look like that. When I was in high school, that's what I was taught it looked like, but it doesn't have to look like that. I'll give an example of how I got in this job. When I was still in college, I was browsing LinkedIn and looking for just a way to get my foot in the door, kind of get into the more professional sports side of things. And I came across this job on LinkedIn that was to be seasonal kind of production assistant for the Worcester Red Sox when they moved from Providence to Worcester. That's the AAA team for the Boston Red Sox. And I applied to the job and I reached out and I heard back. And I heard back from a guy named Joe. And he was the one in charge of hiring. Joe and I worked together at Emerson College when I was an undergrad 8 years ago to produce shows for Emerson College sports out to YouTube so people could see what their kids were doing, what their students were doing, and produce an awesome looking show. And that was nothing that we got paid for. We didn't get credit for it. We just both really liked doing it. And so we had a good friendship. We had a good work relationship. And 8 years down the line, when he's in charge of hiring now, I apply and we get on a video call and he's like, "You want to work here?" Like, "Yeah, awesome. Like let's get you started." Like, not even a question. I remember us working together. Obviously you still, work in the industry. So, no further questions. Let's get you going. And then from there, I met somebody, kind of a coworker. We trained on a machine together. His name is Scott, and we just kind of worked together. And eventually when he got a position here at Gillette Stadium with the Patriots freelancing, a position with him opened up and he recommended me, and that's how I got to where I am. So there's really only 2 degrees separation between me and where I am now and college, right? So networking, all this to say, doesn't have to be handing out business cards, doesn't have to be having your pitch ready. It can be being friendly, it can be working well with people and having motivation to do what you want to do, and that's going to get you a long ways. Making friendships, talking to people, continuing those relationships, and then they pass your name around, and you reach out to people. You try to be on freelance databases, and you work. All these different. I've done work tons of side gigs, and now all those there's connections that fizzle out, and there's connections that lead to great job opportunities.
Awesome. And I think one thing you really touched on there is the idea of networking, and the stereotypical networking scenario that everybody thinks of is, all right, I'm going to a conference. I'm going to have some business cards, resumes. I'm going to walk around, wait in line, talk to somebody for 30 seconds, and then I'm just going to go to the next table. But there's I always like to say, we network every day here at the Hall of Fame. I've been here 10 years and I'm networking every day. I'm here at the Hall of Fame, whether it be with this is networking. As easy as this is somebody who works at the Hall of Fame, working with somebody who works for the New England Patriots. And now we've built a connection. So if I'm in New England or Chris comes to Northeast Ohio, hey, Jake, you at the Hall of Fame? Yeah, sure, come in, come walk around the museum. So it creates those bonds and those relationships. And that is what really helps you down the road. And Chris, you mentioned right when we started off, the room you're sitting in is, fairly new. You got one room you're in, there's another room on the other side. But I'm sure everybody knows that's not how technology started. And the technology that is being used has come such a long way. And we here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we are a museum. We tell the full story of the game of professional football, and that includes the broadcasting and TV and game world. So we thought, what better way to marry those two things than go to live to our museum right now. Nathan Martin, the communications coordinator, is out there with some technology that I don't think would fit today's society, but at one point it was all that we had. So Nathan, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. And Chris, thanks for being a part of the program with us today. As Jake was saying, I'm standing here live inside our museum. I'm in our rotunda, which is actually the oldest part of the museum. It's been here since 1963 when we opened. And this portion up here on the second floor, we've actually got it all divided by fantastic finishes, pioneers of the game, the road to equality. And I'm actually standing in a space that's dedicated to pop culture. And pop culture has been a significant part of the history of the game, from players making appearances in movies, or now video games, and obviously being on TV every week. And actually part of this exhibit is dedicated to Monday Night Football, and kind of like how amazing that was, and how that kind of transcended anything that had ever happened with live sports and that production. And we've got an old camera here from when ABC started broadcasting those Monday Night Football games back in 1970. Like Jake kind of already alluded to, I don't think, Chris, that you guys could use this camera the way that ABC did for anything that you guys are doing. But, that leads me to wonder, like, how do you make sure in your position with your colleagues that you guys have the best available technology so that the user experience, the fan experience can be enhanced because of that?
Thanks, Nathan. I would think we would have immense struggles trying to even see picture coming out of that camera behind you. I think the connectors are too old. We don't have the cables that connect to that. We don't have a way to take that signal in. 50 years ago, we've come a long ways.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. To answer your question about technology, there's two kind of camps, right? On the one hand, you want technology that is proven and that works and that is not prone to error. And often that means not the stuff that's brand new. Right? That means things that's been around for decades. Not quite that camera, but there's graphic machines that have been around for a couple decades. There's replay machines that have been around for a couple decades, and they look like they've been around for a couple decades, but they still work, and they're still reliable, and they still are great, and people that maintain them know how to maintain them, know what the problems are. And so those things kind of work, and there's no need to kind of upgrade unless it's broken, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
The other camp is, getting the newest stuff, the newest technology. There's really, really cool stuff out there. I was talking with somebody last month. There is a new software that they're pushing out right now that lets you feed any sort of camera into the software, and then using AI, it creates additional frames, which is say like pictures per second. That's what video is, right? 30 pictures per second. Using AI, it creates more pictures per second. And then if you play those pictures back slowly, it's slow motion, right? But it's slow motion created with AI, not with having a really expensive camera that can shoot 200 pictures a second, right? There's also cool advancements in technology in terms of presentation out to the audience. There's currently a product that's very popular. Lets you scan a QR code in the Jumbotron, and now your phone is a camera that they take to the Jumbotron. We use that every game, and that's super cool. In that same QR code, you can send a picture of yourself, and now AI can transform that. We can put Snapchat filters on people, and there's a lot of cool advancements in that technology. Where we land is kind of a mix of the two. We use products from vendors, from companies that are proven and that are well respected and have great customer service, but we're using the newer side of their products. So it's the AI thing I mentioned earlier. We're using that where you couldn't use it if you're using the 30-year-old machine that's still supported. We're using newer versions of their video switchers. This thing behind me, this thing that lets you call up different video signals and push those out. This is a very new model that gives you more customizability and flexibility as a person that uses it, but it's still very reliable because it comes from a company that we know and that we trust and that has good customer service.
So you did a great job actually explaining that, and I wasn't expecting the old reliable. You just think, oh, it's the NFL, it's the Patriots, they're going to have the newest and latest and greatest thing. So I appreciate you kind of enlightening me and hopefully the students to that. But I'm curious, maybe even personally, and maybe something the students could do? Like, what are you reading, or I don't know if it's on YouTube videos you're watching. Like, how are you staying updated on, like, hey, this new technology is out there. We might not be ready to implement it yet, but I kind of want to monitor how this is going so that I'm prepared when we're ready to make that dive and start using it in Gillette Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Instagram is the short answer.
Oh,
A
nice.
lot of great content on Instagram. As of yesterday, we just finished a 3-day trade show in Las Vegas that
Mm.
shows all the cool, like latest and greatest technology, literally the cutting edge stuff. This happens every year in Las Vegas. It's called NAB. If you look up NAB, just that acronym, NAB show, you'll see all the different vendors, hundreds and hundreds of companies that have the coolest new thing and that are working on this awesome thing. That's a great way to monitor it. I follow a couple Instagram accounts behind the broadcast, is all one word, behind the broadcast, that shows they were just at NAB as well. And they show, look at this cool new camera system that like moves by itself, that tracks your subject. Look at this system that sees the field and can put things on the field, sort of augmented reality style. And the other one is Ross Video. Ross is the company that this video switcher comes from. This graphics machine behind me comes from Ross, just ROSS on Instagram. And they post, both those accounts and surely many others, post Instagram stories, post regular posts. And that's a great way to see like what's new, what's happening, especially right now, because this show just ended. If you go on their Instagram, there's still, 20 or 50 stories of all these cool things that happened yesterday that were shown for the first time yesterday. And then outside of that, there's also a lot of free education on YouTube. This same company, Ross, if you Google Ross University, they have dozens of videos for free showing you how to use this machine behind me, this graphics machine, and machines that connect to it. How do you make a lower third banner, right? That says somebody's name and their title, and maybe the company's logo in the corner. How do you make an associate of mine just went through the training to figure out how to recreate the solar system in this software. So like orbiting and rotating and light directions that lights go. And I don't know a use case for that yet, but it's cool that it's there, and you can learn how to do it.
Yeah.
The software itself isn't free, but the training is.
Yeah.
And then if if you can find the people that are in charge that are me, but for your local like college or high school that are doing video stuff, almost certainly they would want to have you in and be like, oh yeah, just somebody to train and like see what we're doing. They'd love to have somebody coming in and say like, I'm interested in doing camera, I'm interested in doing graphics, like what does that look like, what does that look like in this area? Is there somewhere I can drive to that's a bigger city that has more sports stuff going on? And what you'll find is that the sports television group of people are very well connected. They're very happy to accommodate. They're very happy to show you around if that's what you're passionate in and what you're interested in. They love having people coming in. On a side note, me and some colleagues just went out to LA a couple months ago to see what they're doing. Like what's the stuff that you guys are doing? Are you using different things than us? Using the same thing as us? Or using the same thing as us but better? How are you using it? And to give you an idea of how well connected the sports world is and how accommodating they are, when we flew out there, we had booked, I think, 2 tours officially with SoFi Stadium and I think the Intuit Dome, right? The Clippers' new venue. Those were rock solid locked in. By the time we left, we had seen like 7 things total. So in the time that we were in LA or on the plane, we reached out to people on LinkedIn and said, hey, we're from Boston, we're flying in. Is there a chance you have a minute to show us around? And you're able to get 5 more people to show us around just from being on the flight or from being there, reaching out to people day before, 2 days before. It's a good world to be in, and there's a lot of connections that can happen, and people are really happy to help you move up, advance, do what you want to do, because people that are interested in this and passionate about this are hard to find.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I can tell that you're passionate about this, and it's amazing to see someone in their element, passionate about what they're doing. Hopefully there's students watching that feel the same way about this as you, and they can get connected to you and others in the industry. And I love just the willingness to learn, like the willingness to learn. That's whatever field our students decide to go in, whether it's dealing with the video boards and the cameras and all that, or if they go into communications or using that, whatever the field is, if you're passionate about it and you're willing to learn, you can have success. And I can see that in you, and I hopefully the students can pull that from today's program. But thank you for your insight and letting us go live here in the museum. I'm going to send it back to Jake.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. Yes, Chris, I want to echo it. You can definitely tell that, you love what you do. And it's cool to see that passion come through. I want to touch on one thing before we throw it to Jack here for some of our student questions. You mentioned about, in high school and college, taking advantage of the opportunities there. Can you just touch on maybe as you're a college student, you're a high school student, what are some of those opportunities that they can take advantage of? Can they go to their athletic director? Can they go to their football coach? Can they go to the athletic department of the college and say, I'm willing to help. I got the time. If you can pay me, great. If you can't pay me, I'm cool with that too. What are some of those opportunities that these students could take advantage of?
100%, Jacob. Those opportunities exist. They're out there. It just takes a little bit of courage to talk to somebody and put yourself out there and being open to maybe being told no and trying somewhere else. That's okay. But those opportunities are out there. I'll tell you how I got my start in TV. When I was in second grade, our elementary school had, I don't know if you experienced this, Jacob, when you were in school, but they had like a CCTV, like morning announcements every Friday kind of thing. Teacher turns the TV on and suddenly there's people there talking about what's going on in the school, right? And I remember this very vividly. I remember seeing the broadcast, and behind them was the school, like obviously, right? The school that I go to. Well, the classroom that I was in has a window that faces the front of the school. I peek my head out and I go, I don't see anybody out there. And this is before recording and watching it back after being live was easy. It's more believable that this was live than this was pre-recorded, right? I look out there like, what are they doing? How are they doing that? Because they're not there, but they're there, but they're not there. And that stuck with me all through elementary school. And in sixth grade, I was able to be part of that team that put that on. And I learned what a green screen was. And I learned about teleprompters and graphics and video switching and audio. And all that was contained in this little classroom in sixth grade with my teacher, who I still remember and I had at my wedding a year ago. And then from there, middle school I was lucky enough we had a class learning how to edit video and shoot video, music videos and other projects, things like that. And then in high school was where I talked to, gosh, I don't even remember how I got started, but I talked to the basketball coach and the football coach. And I'm interested in video, like what can you do for me? I'm interested in like helping DJ the music during lunch in the quad. Can I do that? And eventually what that led to was the music, like I mentioned. I got to do that for 3 years. But also these coaches need somebody to shoot video so they could review it later in their team meetings. And I think he paid me. I don't know. I was in high school. He didn't have to. Maybe like buy me a hot dog or something. I don't know. But it was fun. I enjoyed being behind the camera. I enjoyed shooting. It took me a minute to learn that they just want to see the action on the field. They don't want to see the fans or the cheerleaders. So my first video was kind of a dud. But after that, we got into a good system. In college, same thing. I talked to the athletic director and they needed somebody to help film. I learned that there was a program that shoots the videos and pushes it out to the world with graphics and replay. And I'm like, I want to be part of that. Who do I have to talk to? Who do I have to connect with? I don't know who the person is right now, but I know someone who might know. Let me ask them, like, hey, who's in charge of the video? I'd love to be on that team. I'd love to work on the video side. And just ask around because there's opportunities out there.
Awesome, and I think those are endless, and the earlier you can get started on those, the better. With there's high school kids that have highlight tapes on these huge Instagram pages, and they don't put those together. Somebody does that for them. So there are so many different opportunities out there. I definitely want to get to Jack here. I know we got some student questions, and I think Jack has got some of his he'd like to insert there as well. So without further ado, we've got Jack Prusser here, our Youth Education and Leadership Coordinator, with some questions from our students. So go ahead, Jack, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Jake, and thank you, Chris, for being with us here today and on this great program. This advice helps a lot of students that we get to reach out to. With that, we'll start with a student question. Michael asked from Pennsylvania State University, what are some types of equipment that you use kind of on a day-to-day basis? And a little follow-up to add into that, he asks, once you're kind of in that role, whether it's through an internship, a part-time job, kind of some things that you went through, what are some ways to kind of really make yourself stand out and work your way up that ladder?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for asking, Michael. Glad to have you here. I will say, Jack, as you noticed, I can talk, so you have to remind me the second question later. But I can talk to the equipment side right now that I remember you saying. Equipment that I use on a day-to-day basis. Like I said, there's two parts of my job. One part is administrative. On that side, I'm just using my laptop. I'm trying to figure out right now which software is good for me in terms of like Microsoft Project, Trello, Asana, Monday.com. There's so many project management softwares out there that I'm trying to figure out which one is just the right one for me. It might be a case of there's too many out there and I just got to pick one and start using it. That's kind of the more boring side. On the broadcast side, on a day-to-day basis, it's just kind of maintaining what we currently have. I mentioned Monster Jam's coming up in a couple days. They just sent us a whole bunch of videos, pictures, graphics that they're going to want to use. And so over today and tomorrow, my job is going to be taking those things they sent us and loading them in the machines. So for example, this machine behind me create the double box that you see on like TV news all the time, right? There's two big squares in the frame. There's a background behind them. This makes that happen. And so I have to take the background they gave me and then make the boxes fit in the background. They send things I mentioned, like little banners across the bottom that show you your name. That happens in this machine. So I'm going to load those in, make sure they work, make sure that they can be seen by this machine that takes that input. If they ever send us videos, I'm working with a video playback machine. If you really want to get into specifics, this is a Ross a touch drive Carbonite. The other one is a Ross Acuity. They're both the Ultrix model. This is Ross Expression. Starts with an X, there's no E, Expression. And then the video playbacks we use is through a company called EVS. They're also probably at NAB. They're also huge. We use EVS playback. Those are the big three things that I'm touching on a day-to-day basis to make sure they work and they function together. Smaller things like audio, someone else takes care of. Things I mentioned about the AI filters, that just kind of, whatever troubleshooting needs to happen can happen the day of. I don't really touch those on the weekday. Same with the software that puts, I mentioned augmented reality, puts like the lines on the football field or advertisements on there that kind of follow the camera. Anything that happens there, we're at a point where we can troubleshoot that day of. So I'm not touching that too much. And what was the second half of the question, Jack?
Yeah, I think that's just to touch on the technology aspects. I think it's so crazy because like even like I don't even think of like all that technology can do for an NFL game. I mean, you mentioned the advertisements, just the way technology has grown so much. It's so cool to hear. The follow-up question on that was kind of once you're in a job role, what are some ways that you could really, make yourself stand out and move up the ladder throughout your career? Good
question. It's tough because I have two thoughts on this. So on the one hand, being passionate about what you want to do is awesome. Like if there's a thing that you're like, I want to learn about this, I want to do this thing, maybe for life, I don't know, I have fun right now, I want to do it right now. Focus on that. Like ask people, go to the person that's using it when he or she's not busy and be like, hey, like, can you kind of show me around like what this does and how this works? They're more than happy to talk to you. I now that I'm saying the story, I remember when I was 13, going to Seattle, being at a concert, and it's just a small, neighborhood concert, whatever. They had speakers, and when they were done, I was like, "How can I help? Like, can I help you guys break down?" And they were like, "Well, do you know how to like coil cable?" And the answer was no, I didn't know how to coil cable, and he didn't have time to teach me. But if I did, like that's an in right there, right? Do I like music production? Like, let me talk to this guy. Let me help you coil cable. There's so many skills that are easy to learn. For what it's worth, over under is the method of coiling that's standard. It is not, do not ever do this. You'll get fired. Going around your elbow, stop that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Look up over under. It takes a second to learn. It's difficult, but it's the standard. And there's so many resources. I just found a video the other day about like camera placement for football games. Like that's standard. You can learn that. As far as actionable steps, talk to somebody, talk to people you see doing this stuff, talk to athletic directors. If you ever find yourself in a room like this, ask as many questions as you can, including how do I get involved. There's always room somewhere for people who are passionate about this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Really kind of putting yourself out there, being uncomfortable, and the willingness to learn is some great ways that you can grow. And I think you put it in a great way. I do have a question though. Jake, earlier on in the program, when he did your introduction, he talked about how you got to work obviously you work the Patriots games, but getting to work Tom Brady's induction, obviously arguably one of the greatest football players of all time. Kind of what was that experience like? And obviously the stakes are high with that event. I'm sure it was probably a sellout crowd at Gillette. So what was kind of going through your mind during that event?
Boy, Tom Brady's Hall of Fame was a whole thing. Oh my gosh. Where to even start? I mentioned that this room is really, really new, so we're still learning the kinks. Tom Brady's Hall of Fame happened almost a year ago, and so by that point, this room would have been 1 year old. We would have had one NFL season under our belt to like figure out everything that went wrong. And I should also say that we started loading in content and learning how to use these machines during the preseason of I think 2022. My numbers are bad. I went to Emerson. We don't do math. During the preseason. And so we loaded all our stuff. And then during the NFL season itself was when we figured out what goes wrong. And we found a lot of things that went wrong. And it didn't look good if you were in the crowd. There's a lot of mistakes. But we overcome those. We try to. I'm sorry, Jack, you have to repeat the question. Tom Brady's Hall of Fame, right? And so this room was designed for NFL specifically, and even with that, we had some things we had to work out. Tom Brady's Hall of Fame was such a different beast than an NFL game. We had, I think it was a 6 or 7 hour show where we always had content going for his Hall of Fame. We had a pre-show, then the main show. There was always something, and that's just not the case in NFL. There's downtime in the NFL. There's timeouts. There's commercial breaks. We streamed this ourselves. We didn't go to any streaming service, so there were no commercial breaks. It was just us for 7 hours straight, live, not to mention all the ahead of time. So it was really crazy. We did a lot of like interviews in places we never have had a camera before. They had like a little red carpet set up for Tom Brady's special guests. We've never put a camera there before, but now they want to interview people there on the red carpet. How do we make that happen? Can we make that happen? Do we need to like borrow a wireless camera receiver? We've used more cameras on that event than any other event since then, or before, up to that point. We use more people, more man hours, and more systems failed the week of that event than any other event since then or before then. Our system that imports and exports videos, any video, crashed. Our system that manages video signals, that if I say I want to see this graphic machine on this monitor in front of me, crashed and failed over to a backup that wasn't fully configured. Our system that manages wireless intercoms, you have your headset on, that also crashed. And one of those was the night before the event. So it was crazy. It was so much. But everyone here is passionate about what they do, and they work hard, and we put in extra hours, and we want to make this thing look really cool. And we knocked it out of the park. I think we killed it. It looked really great. But boy, was that a mess. Right now we're spending our money this year on creating backups for those things that failed, because that wasn't originally part of the plan. So that really put a light on what we need to improve. But it was so cool.
I think you touched on earlier in the program, problem solving, and as a team, you guys are passionate about what you do, and I think these are all great messages that obviously helped you in the moment with that induction ceremony and getting that production as the best that you guys could with what you were dealt. And I think for students, take that message as you get your career started. Figure out ways. If something goes wrong, don't just give up and do something the best of your ability, is the best way to put it. All right. Thank you, Chris, and thank you for answering my questions and the students' question. We're going to go back to Jake here to wrap up the program.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. And thanks, Chris. Chris, we're winding down here. Just time for a couple more questions. And I want to touch on this because this program is about working in and around sports. But like yourself, sometimes that isn't right off the bat. There's different careers that you go into. And eventually, in the back of your head, you're like, I always want to work in sports. I always want to get there. So for somebody that kind of took the path you did, did you want to work in sports? Or was this something that just came about? You're like, this combines my passions for what I like. And then B, why would you encourage somebody to maybe not start their career off in sports and learn more in a different organization, different company, different, path under broadcasting to then come into the sports world?
Totally. Yeah. I've known I wanted to be in sports since high school. Sports is by its nature unpredictable, right? You're always critically thinking, at fourth down of a football game, anything, there's so many things that could happen in terms of the game. And so you have to be ready in terms of the broadcast for any, 5 things that could totally happen in the next 3 seconds, right? One of which is an injury, right? Like how do you come out of an injury when that happens? So that's anytime you have to be ready for that. And so sports is fun. I enjoy sports. I've always wanted to be in sports. In my career, I have always freelanced in sports, but my full-time job has not always been sports. When I got out of college, I worked for a local news station, and that was fun. That was cool. But for me, it got really, really repetitive and really, really boring. It's the same exact thing, the same cameras, same graphics. The only time that we really get to flex our muscles and put our brain to the test is when there's breaking news. And then we got to bring down reporters. We got to bring in graphics. Everyone's scrambling. But breaking news is not often good news. And so I wanted to get out of that. I then worked for a production company that gets hired by networks like ABC and CNN to do interviews and to do, shoot to reporters and all that. And that was fun, but it was really unpredictable. When we had the shooting in Lewiston, Maine up here about a year ago, I got a call from my boss saying, hey, we got to leave town in an hour for about 5 days. Pack your bags, we're going. And I'm like, cool, fun. I like traveling, but I have a 2-month-old as of today, and that's not a lifestyle I can continue with. I would, and then from there, the connections worked out, and I got my job here. But I would say it's really, really helpful to work in other industries, TV adjacent or not TV adjacent, so you know what you want, right? I wouldn't have known that I wanted a really hard, challenging thing every day unless I worked at that local news station first. I wouldn't have known that consistent hours and predictable hours are important to me until my second job. And I wouldn't have known what salary to ask for without working my second job either. Before that job, I have no concept of what, $30,000 a year. Is that a lot? I don't know. That 30,000 sounds like a lot. Is that enough for me to live my life on? I don't know. But you figure those things out when you work. And I will also say, Jake, to kind of put my money where my mouth is, I've said so much about how the sports industry is so welcoming and inclusive. If you're passionate about sports or television, you want to get into this, get out a pen and paper. My email is Christopher, CHRISTOPHER, .black, BLACK, .2012 @gmail.com. That's my email. Shoot me an email. Let's chat. There are tons of mentorship programs out there through different organizations. And this is another one, right? Let's chat. Let's talk about what you want to do. And let's get you in there because a valuable, if you're interested in this, you're valuable. You're awesome. Let's get you in there. Let's get you doing what you love.
Awesome. Well, students, the door's open. There's your chance. We talked about networking so much today, and now the door's open. So it's not on me. It's not on Chris. It's on you. And this is why we do this program for moments like that. The door's open, and you can start. Yes. Got 2 more things we want to do. We're going to do a rapid fire question segment. So first thing that comes to your mind, and then we got one final question to wrap up with today. So you ready for your rapid fire questions? Number 1, LinkedIn, great way to network or just another social media app?
Great way to network once you've started, once networking is important to you.
2, GPA on a resume, keep it on or leave it off?
Take it off. Take off the year that you've graduated and put that at the bottom of your resume.
3, social media accounts, public or private?
That's a hard one. If I had to pick one, I'd say private, but it's important that people can see what you're working on.
4, jeans at work, all day, every day, never or only on Fridays?
I've worn sweatpants, joggers, shorts. Jeans is the top. If you're wearing jeans, or if you're wearing anything above jeans, you're like the CEO, right?
5, coin toss, heads or tails?
Heads, but always rock first, rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, good. Very good. You score a touchdown. What's the go-to touchdown celebration?
Dude, the Gronk spike is iconic. I think it's the Gronk spike for me.
Awesome. And then last one, this is a new question for us this year. If you could describe your job as a flavor of ice cream, what would that be?
I'd say an apple pie ice cream. Something very traditional wrapped in something very crazy and that you wouldn't think to put it in.
That's very good. Very good. All right. I love those. Before we get to our last question here, Chris, I just want to thank you so much for not only being a part of the program, but bringing the passion and the information and everything you brought to this program today. Jack, this is probably Jack's 4th or 5th one he's been a part of. I've been a part of over 100 of these. This is one of the most fun. Like Nathan said, you can see the passion you have for your career. So I want to take a step out and thank you for bringing that passion, because Sometimes working in sports, it can have a negative connotation because it's such a long season. There's so many long days. You're working weekends. It can be a drag sometimes. But when you hear somebody with the passion like you have for your career, it almost is like a refresher of like, you know what? Our jobs are pretty cool. We got pretty great jobs that we have here. So I want to thank you so much for that. Thank you for being a part of the program. And our last question here is, it's a way to wrap up the program. It gives us a good way to kind of summarize everything we talked about, but also gives the students kind of that go get it mentality at the end of the program. So, is there something we've either talked about that you want to reemphasize, or something we haven't talked about that's that last piece of information? If this is the only thing anybody watches this program takes away, what is that last key thing you want them to take away?
Put yourself out there. Talk to people. Um, Someone once told me, try to get 100 no's, the end, like rejections. Try to get 100 rejections, because if you're trying to get rejections, you're going to get a lot of acceptance in the process. But talk to people. Talk to the athletic director of your school. Talk to the football coach. Talk to someone that might know those people, even if it's not those people directly. Who might know them? Your teacher at school. They probably know the sports person. Ask them. Tell them, hey, I'm interested in this stuff. I want to do it. Reach out to every connection you possibly can. Apply to every job on LinkedIn you can find. Maybe you get an interview. That's cool. Practice your interviewing skills with them. Maybe you're not going to get the job and you know that you're not qualified. Practice your interview skills anyways. This is like a real opportunity to hear real questions, and don't be afraid of failure. Reach out to anyone you can, including myself. I'm serious. That's my personal email. I'm worried that I've doxed myself. Reach out to me. Reach out to whoever you can. And if you're really passionate about this, like, go get it, dude. Like, go be awesome. Go do this thing that you love, and then also you get paid to like have the best day of your life every day.
Awesome. Couldn't agree more. And with that, we're going to wrap up this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Before the Snap series today, featuring Chris Black, the control room manager for not only the Patriots and the Revolution, for Kraft Sports and Entertainment. So again, Chris, thank you so much for being part of the program today.
Thanks, Jacob. Appreciate it.
As always, make sure you stay tuned to everything we have here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, all of our social media channels. We're getting into our great season, our quote-unquote Super Bowl, as we get to enshrine our new class of 2025. So make sure you stay tuned. We got a bunch of tickets on sale. We got game tickets and enshrinement tickets that are going to be on sale here soon. We've got a concert featuring Nickelback that we're putting on here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If you're a fan, go buy tickets right now. We'd love to see you here in Northeast Ohio. When it comes to Before the Snap, we got one more Before the Snap program before we wrap up for the school year. Next week, on April 17th, we're going to have Chisholm Opara, who's the Assistant Director of Player Personnel for the Minnesota Vikings, which is very special because he does a lot with the NFL draft, and we would be 1 week out from night one of the draft. So we're going to see a little insight on what takes place to get ready for an NFL draft. So for myself, Jack, Nathan, all of us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we want to thank you, Chris, for